Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good afternoon, my Kardec Radio friends and all other friends that may be joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here every Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. And each Thursday afternoon, we bring you a reading from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, written by the Spirit Emmanuel through the mediumship of Francisco Quindito Xavier. And one thing I got to do is I've got to make sure that the phone doesn't override anything here. Let's see. I'm taking pictures. I'm doing a great job. Yeah. Well, we'll try again. Be patient, my friends. Not that anybody calls me anyway, but anyway, today's, and as you know, we do a reading, then we make some comments, and then we say our prayer, and then we sign off. So let's get started. The chapter reading today is chapter 122, entitled Fruits. And the New Testament quote is from Jesus, recorded by Matthew chapter 7, verse 20. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. With its lofty characteristics of intelligence, today's world needs fruits in order to test the seeds of principles. Because of this, Christians need to learn a lesson from the good tree, which receives the elements of divine providence through its sap and makes them useful for God's creatures. Making an effort at self-analysis is necessary so that we may identify the qualities of our actions. A lot of fine-sounding words simply give the impression of the fig tree that Jesus condemned. Therefore, it is indispensable for us to know the fruits of our lives so that we can tell whether or not these fruits are beneficial to our brothers and sisters. Earthly life represents a vast opportunity with plenty of doors and horizons to the light eternal. Within their various circles, men and women can receive sap from the Most High each and every day and transform it into fruits of a divine nature. Obviously, today's world is in dire need of edifying teachings. Excuse me. But it can learn nothing without practical examples, especially because ever since ancient times, wisdom has told us that the hardest thing for people to do in the physical world is to live and die faithful to the supreme good. Faithful to the supreme good. Yes, that is the reading from Emmanuel. And what is mentioned here in the reading is the idea of the sap being the energy that gives rise to the fruit. And as long as the sap comes from a good source, it's watered, it's fertilized, and of course, God takes care of all that along with the help of his spirits that are employed, which with each living and inert thing has a spirit associated with it. And the fruit gives forth to be useful for God's creations. There is another section here where he talks about the the fig tree. Whereas a lot of sounding words simply give the impression, oh, there it is. A lot of fine sounding words simply give the impression of the fig tree that Jesus condemned. And what they're referring to is the parable of the withered fig tree. And you can read some more about this going to the Gospel according to Spiritism. It's in chapter 19 under section 8. And therein it talks about the fig tree that dried up is a symbol of those people appearing to have a tendency towards good, but who in reality produce nothing worthwhile. And this is what how it relates to what Emmanuel has written in this particular chapter. They are like preachers. This is material taken from the Gospel. They are like preachers who show more brilliance than substance, whose words have a superficial varnish to them in order to please the ear, but which on close examination, nothing substantial for our heart. And having listened to them, we ourselves have little benefit. Then they go on to talk about we can all be useful, but we can all be useful, but are we? Because we lack the foundation of faith, that is true faith, and that is lacking in the majority of cases, that true faith, that productive faith, the kind that stimulates the fibers of our heart. And it gets back into the statement about when Christ, which is also in this particular chapter, about being able to move the mountain with your faith. So there's so many of us that are like this fig tree. We're covered in leaves, but we're devoid of fruit. Those that are deliberately without purpose or idle, because they have not put into action the resources that have been brought with them, will be treated as the fig tree that dried up. And we don't want to be treated like the fig tree that got dried up. That's for sure, because then there's a long wait for us to get the opportunity in another lifetime. And this is something that Spiritist literature talks about quite a bit, is this idea of having the opportunity to come back each time. And it is a privilege to come back each time. We talk about this a lot, having that opportunity to come back granted to us. How often, we really don't know. When we finally return to the afterlife, we can find out how long we had to wait before we had the opportunity to come back in this particular lifetime. So I'll go back to that statement about being the idle and purposeless type of person. So we don't want to be that way. We want to do something that Emmanuel talked about in here, which is a self-analysis, very similar to what St. Augustine recommends each night that we do, to begin the process of getting to know ourselves. How we thought, what we said, and what we did during each day is a window into what is fruitful in us and what is fruitless. So we must work at watering and fertilizing those fruitless leaves, which means creating new habits of first how we think and how our God-given willpower to create wholesome and loving thoughts, even when being criticized or slandered by a friend or a stranger. And work at being mindful how we react to family members or friends that happen to, let's say, misplace something and we're unable to find it, and then we lose our cool when we do find it and find out that they moved it and didn't let us know, or they misuse something that we give them and it happens to need to be replaced, or we've asked them to do something very important and unfortunately they forget to do it. It can be of the simplest nature, those little things that we ask, but we unfortunately can react. We can overly react with anger or just by raising our voice in displeasure. We need to recognize the unfortunate reaction and ask for forgiveness and march forward with good intentions, remembering the technique of breathing and counting to 10 before we say or do anything we will regret. All things we've talked about in the past. However, they are items that come in so handy, but creating that habit of, pausing and recognizing that, okay, you're going to say something you're going to regret. So let's breathe, let's count, and let's regroup so that even though I'm displeased with what happened, I have the compassion and the tolerance to understand and move forward. And of course, that breathing and that counting are what gives us the capability of doing that. Because it gives us time to calm down, come back off of our so-called, I guess it's pride that gets hurt. How could you possibly do this to me? Also, we can establish a good. One other technique is to establish a good deed that we try to do at least once a day. And it need only be a very small thing. It's fine. Nothing elaborate. Maybe pick up some litter from the street. Maybe say hello to persons that we pass by. Of course, if you're in a crowded environment, the habit of saying hello is a little more difficult. But a walk in the neighborhood usually presents that opportunity quite frequently. And these are things that God will give us when the spirits know we're working on something like this, that we need to work on something like this. The opportunities will be presented to do these small things, at least what we consider small things. But in reality, what they're doing is giving us the opportunity to practice. And that's what we need to do, to practice, to put us into real life situations. You can also take a walk in a park or in a forest, greet the plants and the trees, and even some of these small animals. But this creates a good habit indeed for us. And this is one small way to live and die faithful to the supreme good, which is the way that Emmanuel ended this particular paragraph, talking about that last paragraph he read. Obviously, today's world is in dire need of edifying teachings, but it can learn nothing without practical examples, especially because ever since ancient times, wisdom has told us that the hardest thing for people to do in the physical world is to live and die faithful to the supreme good. Those many small things add up quickly over time as they become a habit in no time. And being grateful for each and every day is another small way that we can generate this habit. Now, my friends, hopefully we've talked about the fruits that are. Well, thank you, Sonny. Sonny's decided to come in and visit, and unfortunately, we don't need him here, even though he'd like to come in. Let us say our prayer. Dear Mother, let's close our eyes, take a little deep breath in, and exhale. Dear Mother, Father God, Lord Jesus, Mother Mary, and all the spirits that be here with us today, we are always so grateful for the opportunity to deliver a message and a reading from Emmanuel in this particular case. Emmanuel is so often the author of the messages that we read. And of course, he was the author of the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life. Each message stimulates us to stimulates us in the way of effort to raise our awareness. And awareness is what is needed each day to be able to think properly, to speak properly, and to act properly, so that we don't offend ourselves or anyone else. That we continue to grow these habits of thinking, speaking, and doing properly. We also implore you, dear God, to shower upon the earth your love and mercy, as it is so needed these days in the raging environment of the new Omicron variant of the COVID-19 virus. Is getting people's attention at this particular time, as it is so transmissible. We need that overwhelming love and healing energy from you to be spread throughout our city and state and our country, and of course the whole world. That blessed opportunity given to all to treat people with fraternity. May that love and energy be spread through the hospitals, through shelters, homeless shelters, through feeding centers for people that are hungry, through the immigration community, through the ones that are fugitives trying to establish themselves in a new country, in institutions that treat people that have mental conditions, in jails and halfway houses that help our criminals to rehabilitate themselves. And also any other segment of our society that needs your healing energy and love. We know you are with all of us in every moment of our day. And we are so grateful that your love is always there with us. Many of us turn a blind eye to it, but many of us do see it and absorb it. Once again, we thank you for your guidance and protection during this particular session and during this prayer. And we request permission to end this prayer, and so be it. My friends, thank you for joining us today and helping us to get through this wonderful time. I just noticed that Dulcie joined us. Thank you for being here. I don't always look at the comments because I have something else up on the screen, but thank you for being here, my dear. And I will sign off with the reminder that I think many of us know that Kardec Radio is always here to nourish your soul 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's just a matter of you creating the habit of keeping us tuned in. And if you have one of those smart speakers like Alexa, whenever you leave the house, make sure you tune in to the Kardec radio station so you can keep those spirits that may still be with you in that house entertained and nourishing their souls. Take care, my dear friends. Bye-bye.